Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to cilinixfxcapital, or welcome to the channel if you're new, of course, and welcome to this new video here on Bitcoin. The second day of Easter. Hope you all had a great weekend. Hope you all had a great Easter if you're celebrating. And in this video, we're going to do a bit of a recap of what happened with Bitcoin. Because yesterday was already quite volatile. We of course had that pullback into the value area low right here. We'll zoom in a bit. Into the value area low. From there we bounced quite good. The volume was still quite low with the initial moves up, but then afterwards, or at least when the markets opened, we got a super bullish move, right? I mean, we broke above the main resistance level right here at 85,500. And we broke out with quite a lot of volume as well, so that leaves us in a bit of a difficult position right here for Bitcoin, which we will discuss in this video. When I almost have to sneeze, but that is that, you know, in the like the move itself left behind a lot of imbalances here to the downside. I mean, you can see we basically have a fair value gap all the way from 87,000 down to 84,800. So that's never great, but then outside of that, the volume of the move is actually pretty good. The volume has in the last 24 hours almost doubled. It's up about 85% over the last 24 hours, 93%, excuse me, over the last 24 hours, which makes me think that this move actually has a chance to hold. All right, so therefore, that's what I wanted to talk about. Now, obviously, I mean, Monday, do we really trust that? Obviously, today the U.S. equity markets do open again, and all the markets are open again, even though it's the second day of Easter. But it's still going to be volatile. I mean, the fundamental situation, of course, which I'll dive into a little bit more in my middle of the day market update later today. But the fundamental situation is also still very uncertain. I mean, gold prices are still rallying, and incredibly high, by the way. So the fundamental situation in combination with the financial markets so far, because you can see that they've actually opened slightly bearish, makes me believe that, you know, even though we actually have solid volume behind this, the European session just opened, the US session just still has to open. So even though the volume is quite high, I do think today we're going to see a pullback. And then the strength of the reaction to support after that pullback is, in my opinion, going to be the main indication of whether we can actually hold this breakout. Yes or no, because if you zoom all the way out, I mean, this looks like a pretty good structure, right? I mean, we also left an imbalance here to the downside right here in the middle of April. We also did not fill that, and even though we did not fill that entirely, at least, we still continue to rally. So even though we left a lot of imbalances, and even though the fundamental situation is quite shaky, that was also the case during the middle of April, right? And there we actually did rally up higher. And I think ultimately for Bitcoin, getting a move into the low 90s is quite likely. And then I'm talking about the next 2 weeks or so. And then after that, we will talk about the move potentially into the low 70s, which I also still think is quite likely, but that's for later, and I don't want to scare you about that. But no, all right, so we broke out with volume, but today is going to be volatile, both fundamentally, but also just normally. I mean, the US session after a 3-day weekend is always volatile. So for me, the main levels I'm looking at regarding Bitcoin, and by the way, I mean, if you see an open interest increase like this, a lot of leverage coming into the price, that usually also ends with a bit of a pullback, at least in open interest. It's probably also a lot of shorts opening. So short term, I mean, would I short this? Personally, no. We can still easily grab some liquidity to the upside, like this, before testing support. But for me, the main level I'm looking at is 86,000. 86,000 is a value area high from a previous balance. If we're able to hold that, so that also means if we drop down to 85,500 and we're able to reclaim or close above 86,000 afterwards, that also still counts. If we're able to hold that level with decent volume, so that's also something I'll keep you updated on that, of course, then I would say that the breakout is real. And if we are and that we can rally up to that 90-day rolling VWAP here at what is it, like 90,000 almost, and if we're unable to either hold that level, so if we just break down below 86,000, it's likely we're going to fall down much lower. Be aware of that, right? Because that could be a massive unrolling of positions. Or if we drop down to 86,000 and we're losing volumes, like there's not really strength coming from there, then we can also see something like this, but then the pullback would be a little bit less aggressive. So those are all the possibilities. Because of the technical situation right now, I have to say that I think it's most likely we will pull back like this, but that we will be able to hold this and that we will also be able to rally up higher. The technical strength of this move is just too much for me to tell you that we're going to have the entire pullback into the low 80s from here. All right, so that is a possibility, and I'll try to keep you updated on that. But for now, I would say this is more likely. But those are my thoughts. Like I said, I'll be back with more updates later. But for now, thank you for watching. Take care and bye.